Hey everyone, welcome back to Cuddy's bookshelf. So you would have seen my 23 books that I absolutely adored in 2023. So my favourites of the year. But I didn't include both my poetry and my manga, and so I'm going to do those two separately. First one, this one is going to be, obviously you will know by the title, it is going to be my poetry reads. I think it's one of the most personal experiences you can have with reading, the way that you interpret people's poetry. A lot of these they're quite similar in their writings, where it can be quite hard-hitting topics, but there is times where you can have a situation, they could be writing it about a romance, but you can read the same poetry and make it work for a relationship you've had regarding a family member, a friend, like losing someone or being like abused by someone or anything along those lines that the poetry is about. You can see from your own experiences yourself in that situation, and some of the poetry might not be for you because you can't really relate, but you can enjoy the fact that it is really beautifully written poetry. But a lot of these I just had a beautiful time reading them, and I think a poetry book is something that I always look forward to getting around to with a nice cup of tea, a nice little snack, and just having 20 minutes, half an hour to digest a book of poetry is just perfect for me. I did find some new poetry authors this year, so this is probably going to be more about the authors that I have found this year, because again, it's a personal thing. If you don't really like poetry or have never been into it, this video might not be for you, but I do suggest like giving it a chance. I think if you go into the bookshop, just open a poetry book up, have a feel for it yourself. These are some of my favourites this year. So the first one is Wild Embers by Nikita Gill. So this was my first ever Nikita Gill poetry collection that I read. Again, I did find some of them I couldn't really relate to, but a lot of them I could, and it was just a really joyful experience. I'm glad that I have read a poetry collection by Nikita Gill now, and I plan to read more. I do actually think I have got one on my shelf that I haven't read yet. So yeah, that was the first one. And then this one is a bind up. I've read a lot of collections from this author, and it is Amanda Lovelace. So this is the bind up, You Are Your Own Fairy Tale. So this has the bind up of the three is the Break Your Glass Slippers, Shine Your Icy Crown, and Unlock Your Storybook Heart. And a lot of Amanda Lovelace's poetry is on like harder hitting subjects. It's very powerful, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this collection. So yeah, Amanda Lovelace. The next one is, I think, my favourite poetry author that I found this year, and you can tell by the amount that I have actually read this year. And this is by Lang Live, and I loved all of them. Like I say, I feel like poetry is a really hard video to film because poetry is very like person-centered, but I really connected with a lot of these. So I will take you through them, which ones. So I read September Love, Love Looks Pretty on You, Sea of Strangers. I really enjoyed this. I've got a tab in it and I don't know which one that was for. Thoughts on Letting Go. It is possible to move on from someone even if your heart refuses to let go, and it's not something you need to consciously do. It will just happen gradually over time. The ache will always be there, but the intensity will fade, and you'll find other beautiful things to fill your days. It's just stuff like that. This is one of my favourites that I read last year. all of these are my favourites that I read last year, but I think that's like my favourite of Langleaf's books that I read last year. But then I also read The Universe of Oz, Love and Misadventure, and Lullabies. All great poetry collections. Really enjoyed them all. The next two on the list is Aphrodite Made Me Do It and Artemis Made Me Do It. So I read this during my Greek mythology vlog that I filmed the middle of last year. And I really enjoyed these. I like the Greek mythology references in them, but I also really liked these because, so in these there is a lot of illustrations that just made the experience even more. So yeah, I read these two. I do have another one of these, which is the Persephone Made Me Do It. It's the newest one, so I am looking forward to that next year. The last poetry collection is Poems and Readings for Funerals by Julia Watson. So this does sound morbid, but I did suffer a lot of loss last year. So I lost a grandparent, I lost a parent, and I think finding others' words when you have none yourself for the loss is something that really helped me, because I mean, I'm still processing. So I did write one of these out in a card to my mama when my granddad passed, and because she really enjoys poetry also, and she really appreciated that. So yeah, it was a book that I didn't know I needed when I bought, but it did come in handy at the time that I needed it, because when I first bought this, I read a few of the poems, and because I always think, like I said at the beginning of this video, it is subjective to how you feel, and with this, it was not I didn't buy it as a way of looking at loss of somebody. It could be a loss of anything, a loss of a friendship, a loss of something personal, just loss in general. You know, friendships break down, marriages break down, family members, you lose family members, and not just in death, but just in general. And that's why I brought this in the first place. But then I did suffer some hard losses last year, so I did relate to a lot more of these after that. So yeah, that was my last one. I hope that this has been an alright video. I just wanted to show my appreciation for my favourite poetry books that I read in 2023. I hope that if you do pick any of these up, I really hope that you enjoy them and interpret them however you see them in your life. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more from me, please subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. Is a very what's the word, way that it comes across, the way that you interpret is it you let me just favoritist, is that a thing?